We were telling you that if the R curve is for a non-linear material behavior, which you know that you see all metals and so on, linear is in the elastic region. As soon as you go close to the yield point, plasticity enters and you have the non-linear one. So mostly there is a rising R curve, but if the geometry is such that the plate is of infinite size compared to the crack size, then it can become flat. So this, right, rising R curve, I just told you, I challenged you in a way that normally if the crack size grows, then the material becomes weaker. So how can the resistance of the material to crack growth be rising? But now see, if it is a ductile material, if it is not a purely brittle material, if it has even a little bit of ductility, then once the crack is there, then plasticity is coming in, right? Plastic deformation is coming in. As soon as plastic deformation is there, the crack which was a sharp crack has become a blunt rounded crack. So the crack growth rate will go down. Do you understand? So this is because of the plasticity of the material. If the material is a brittle material, then this does not happen. The flat R curve is okay. There is a resistance of the material, and even if the crack size is larger, that resistance of the material is a material property, it remains flat. But if we keep on increasing the plastic size, if the crack size grows, there is more plastic size in the crack. There is more plastic size in the crack. And more plasticity means blunting of the sharp crack. It is like, you see, if there is a sharp corner, there is a stress concentration. If there is a radius, a stress concentration is lower. So when there is plasticity, the rounding of the sharp corner is there, then it goes down. So therefore, rising R curve is very much physically, mechanistically correct. That if the material has non-linear material behavior, which means plasticity, which means most of the metals and so on, so then the plasticity will add resistance. Some materials are very strange. They can display a falling R curve, a decreasing R curve. So here explanation is required. That was easier to explain in terms of ductility, but a decreasing R curve. When a metal fails by cleavage, cleavage is a sudden big surface in brittle failure. R curve would be relatively flat if the crack growth were stable. However, cleavage propagation is normally unstable. So we are not talking too much of this here. I would encourage you to go into the book. Anderson is there, or you can go anywhere online, that is not an issue, and write decreasing R curve or falling R curve and try to understand it a little more. For now, this much discussion. This is the first time you are doing fracture mechanics, and rather than doing the stress intensity approach where K1C was the fracture toughness of the material, we are now in the energy approach, and we are saying energy release rate G, and GC is the fracture toughness of the material. And rather than saying the crack driving force G, we take the opposite of the material, the resistance of the material to crack growth R, and then the different types of R curves and so on. Now something, again, a different view to look at things, but something which is very, very, very critical. You see, in material science, you thought of the tensile test. Remember, in solid mechanics, you again did the tensile test. You know that all the major material properties are based on the stress strain curve. You do the tensile test and then the stress strain curve, and from there you find the elastic modulus, the yield strength, the ultimate strength, the ductility. You can even find the modulus of resilience and modulus of toughness. But how do you conduct the test? You take, of course, a standard sample geometry. You take grips in the universal testing machine which can hold the round sample or the flat sample. You have now gripped the sample properly. Now when you say start loading, then what does the machine do? The rate at which you will apply the load is critical. You see, the machine can go from 1 kilonewton to 2 kilonewton in 1 second. It can go there in half a second. It can go there in 1/10 of a second. So the loading rate is very critical, because you know that if you increase the strain rate, the loading rate, then the machine will go from 0 to 500 megapascal in half a minute, and then it will not be a valid stress strain test, because it is almost an impact load, very quick. But if it goes from 0 to 500 megapascal in 2, 3, 4 minutes, then it is slowly applying the load and increasing the load, right? So the rate at which you apply is important. So load control, where you control the load, is important. If you don't do that, then the test doesn't mean much. There is another approach in the machine called displacement control. You see, inside the machine, how we set it, I can either say 1 kilonewton per second, for example, or 10 kilonewton per second. So I am fixing the machine on a loading rate. On the other hand, I can say 1 millimeter per minute. That, you see, it is a tensile test. So extension in the machine will be, extension in the geometry of the length of the part will be there. So I can say, don't forget about the load, whatever load is there, you apply it, but change it at a rate of 1 millimeter per minute. So now it is the same machine is on a load, not in a load control mode, it is in a displacement control mode, right? So you have done this, but at that time we did not think it necessary to explain this to you. Had you read the standard, ASTM standard, ISO standard for tensile test of metals, then they will tell you that put the machine at this loading rate. So then the question would come, but generally because you do not read these standards, then, right? So you can set the same universal testing machine on which you are doing the tensile test or the compression test and so on in a load control mode, so many kilonewtons per second, for example, or a displacement control mode, so many millimeters per minute and so on. I am not saying millimeters per second, because you see, then within 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds the whole thing will fail, because how much does it extend anyhow, right? Okay. Stability of crack growth depends on the rate of change in G. G itself is a rate of change in the potential energy, remember, and this is the rate of change in G. So second derivative of potential energy, G is already the rate of change of the potential energy with respect to the crack surface. And when we say rate of change of G, then it is derivative of that. So second derivative of potential energy. The driving force G is the same for both load control and displacement control. Now this we have said without any explanation, but this is huge. They must have taken years and years and years of research before they came to this conclusion, that the driving force G will remain the same whether you set the machine in load control or displacement control. However, the rate of change in the driving force curve depends on how the structure is loaded. So G itself remains the same for load or displacement control, but DG, DA or something like that depends on whether you are in load control or displacement control. Displacement control tends to be more stable than load control. This one sentence you should stop. You should try to think what is the physics behind it. Displacement control is more stable than load control. Why? Why? You see, when you extend the material, right, the crack is also extending, right? There is an initial crack and you are changing the length of the material in the tensile force. So when you change the length of the material, the crack is extending. So change in length or displacement is directly related to the crack growth, but change in load is not directly related, because you change from 1 kilonewton to 2, nothing happens, 2 to 4, nothing happens. When you go to 10 kilonewton, maybe a slight change in the length. Do you understand? So load change is not directly related to extension of the crack size, but displacement, as soon as displacement changes, the crack size has increased. So there you can control it. I am controlling that the displacement goes from 1 millimeter to 1.1 millimeter. I am controlling it. So whatever load was required, that load has to be applied. But when I am doing load, I don't know at which load it suddenly goes from 1 to 1.5. So therefore, displacement control is more stable than load control. With some configurations, driving force actually decreases with crack growth in displacement control. Right? We told you last page also that there is increasing R curve and so on. So this is very rare that the driving force can even decrease in certain configurations. When R curve is determined experimentally, a specimen is usually tested in displacement control. Right? When we want to do experimental measurement of R, the resistance curve of the material, then what is the preferred mode? Displacement, because it is more stable. Since most of the common test specimen geometries exhibit falling driving force curves in displacement control, it is possible to obtain a significant amount of stable crack growth before final failure happens. So this is the reason that if you practically do it and you want to measure the R of the material, then better do fix the machine in the displacement control mode, and then you can have a large amount of crack extension before you can find things. So your favorite activity again. You see, you always love to have numerical problems rather than descriptive problems where you have to explain things a lot. But I feel here, once you have entered chapter 2, you are thinking, my goodness, your numerical problems are sort of derivations. So yes, you are very right. But rather than showing these derivations as a lecture, when you do it, when you solve it, then you really understand much more. That is always the thing. That rather than somebody telling you go from this equation to this equation to this equation, this is the result. Then you can really understand by challenging and questioning and so on. But if you say that, okay, this is the equation, now go to this second equation yourself. Take the geometry, take the previous equations, take everything, but do it yourself. So then it is like, oh, so that is what we are doing. If you see, it is still the double cantilever beam, right, specimen, DCB, the double cantilever beam. We say it because if you slice it in two, remove the top part, it is just a cantilever beam. It is fixed on one end and there is a deflection on the other end, right? So it is a cantilever beam. So there are two of them in the real problem. But the real problem is an actual notched specimen. There was a flat piece and you have a V notch in there and you are applying mode 1 loading, and that mode 1 loading is creating some crack extension from the V notch. So it is still a DCB specimen. But this time evaluate the relative stability of a DCB specimen in load control and displacement control. Right? Stability of a DCB specimen, stability. So you know the stability, G is equal to R and this and that. So find the stability in load control and then find the stability in displacement control. Please pause here, don't go further. You can go back to any of the previous examples and equations and so on, but take a pen and pencil and really take it as a challenge, as I keep on telling you that please keep it as a challenge and don't solve further. And unpause my lecture only when you are totally done mentally. If you were in a class, you will actually be doing it and I will be coming to you and so forth. Okay, so please don't go forward in the lecture. Solve it and I will discuss the solution next time, inshallah. So for today we are stopping here, but you are not stopping, right? You are continuing with this problem without going one page further in the lecture notes and so on. You are going back and looking at all the equations and so on, DCB, whatever you derived earlier, and please solve it so that when we come next time, the solution you have actually done it. So thanks a lot for today. See you next time. Mas salama.